Hey there, conncasts here. This segment, Thoughtcast, spelled Thought, not confused with a THOT, will just be thoughts on a subject over a static image. It won't be as in-depth as Concast, but it will be over a static image, so I don't have to enlist making it, and I can release them more often. Basically, I don't want my channel to become a shitty Let's Play channel, which at this point it really is, and this is my solution to it. This first episode is going to probably piss off almost everybody. So let's get started. Why is the term human rights considered anything more than a tool the left uses to creep up socialism? Of course there are rights, but does anybody say that property tenure or free speech is a human right? No, they usually refer to those as constitutional rights or something along those lines, depending on what country you're in. No, if you notice a pattern, human rights are only things that cost money and put a boot on your neck. Let's take healthcare. For example, something that's put on the line quite a bit in modern political discourse. Hot button issue in almost every country, socialized or not. In the US, the Affordable Care Act was touted as, and I quote, human rights, and in Canada, where it is already considered a human right, not a debate passes in which one of the members of the big three parties mentions reforming healthcare, as if just one tweak would make an institutionally flawed concept perfect. The question is, when healthcare becomes partially socialized, what's to stop those same human rights advocates from making it illegal for people to use private healthcare as they did in Canada? Of course, that is inequality, and it's a human right to suffer just as the poorest people suffer. Bring it to the lowest common denominator. In fact, growing up in Canada, one of the first political commercials I remember seeing was a member of the NDP, I think it would be Jack Layton back then, talking about a shortage of doctors. If there's a better place for doctors to go, what would stop them from going there? That was the basic issue. So, are we forcing doctors to stay in the country? Are we forcing doctors to work as doctors? There's no incentive there. You're forcing doctors to do what you want them to do so that healthcare can be a human right. Now, let's put healthcare aside for a moment and segue into, some quote-unquote human rights issues. If healthcare is indeed a human right, shouldn't food be a human right? A lot of people say that food's like medicine. Good food prevents you from needing to use healthcare. And under logical examination, food should be a human right before healthcare, as healthcare costs increase when unhealthy and low-quality food is consumed. So is a healthy, complete diet a human right? Or is a basic diet a human right? Who decides what's healthy and who decides what's basic? Lots of nutritionists have various theories about this. And after all, if they have a human right to healthcare, why should they be able to feed themselves junk food at everybody else's expense? You don't get to choose what you get to eat. How's that for a boot on your neck? Well, many newly independent African nations actually experimented with food as a human right. After all, food shortages are common in Africa. The results, of course, were disastrous. At what price should the government buy food from the farmers? Market prices? Which market? Of course not the national market. There's no national market for food if it's a human right and everybody's getting their basic food, especially when there's not really much luxury food that's getting consumed in a newly independent African nation. International markets then? No, that can't be. What if France decides to pay far more for tomatoes or maize or yams because of a blight elsewhere? Would that make the government default just because France wants to pay more money? So the answer would be to ban exports or buy all or most of the national production. But what if there's a surplus? Would the government be required to indebt itself or raise taxes to buy all of the national food production? Alternatively, would one leave the farmers with a surplus they can't sell because exports are banned and they can't use in the country because food is a human right already? Losing money in the process? Wouldn't that force them to go into other professions eventually, or maybe leave the country? Now you have a farmer shortage, just like the NDP's doctor shortage. So what can you do? I guess you could bring back serfdom and force people to farm. Does that work? We just brought back serfdom using human rights. There's a list of human rights leading to insolvencies and human rights violations, and it goes on and on and on and on. I could go on for an hour. But as I said at the beginning, I'm going to cut this short, not make it as in-depth as, say, a concast. So I'm going to leave you some food for thought here. And I want you to think about it. Leave your opinion in the comments. What is and isn't a human right? And when was the last time you heard the term human right without it being accompanied directly by, left-wing rhetoric? Thanks for tuning in. Sub for more Concast content, including Thoughtcasts and more. And please follow me on social media. I got Twitter, I got Facebook, I got Patreon if you want to give me money. All in the description. I'll see you next time.